to Suits and Sneakers, a series featuring sage advice and candid conversations with seasoned leaders from diverse backgrounds and styles. I'm your host, Carrie Tuttle. With my guests, we deep dive into the areas of team engagement, motivation, and effective performance management. Get ready to be inspired and transform your approach to leadership. Please like, subscribe, or follow to be notified when episodes are released. Let's get started. I am delighted to speak with Tracey Nyholt, founder and CEO of TechJutsu Inc., a technology startup specializing in identity and access management solutions. With 20 years of cybersecurity expertise, Tracey leads a team that has achieved partner status with Okta and received Okta's Innovation Award for developing patent pending Caller Verify. In 2024, TechJutsu was recognized as the American Rising Star Partner of the Year by Okta. Tracey attributes TechJutsu's success to the incorporation of principles like simplicity and continuous improvement, which she refined while training as a black belt in martial arts in all her free time. Tracey, welcome to Suits and Sneakers.
Thanks so much, Carrie. I got my suit and I even brought my sneakers, so I feel ready for this conversation.
Awesome. I was totally going to ask you, like, in your world, what do you like to wear to work?
I'm a big fan of, professional on top and party on the bottom. So I do have work pajamas, specifically pajama bottoms, and I'm usually dressed like this because I'm on camera all day.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, in the tech world, a lot of people are remote, working from home, and comfort's important.
I even have a little home for my cats here right behind me, so
Aw,
we can spend time together while I'm working.
aw, that's sweet. I know I usually have the supervisor in here, but she's off taking a nap somewhere. So tell me about when you founded your company. What was the idea or the motivation behind starting TechJutsu?
Really because as a consultant, I was limited, limited financially, limited in terms of the decision-making power I had. And I fundamentally don't believe I'm limited. My parents raised me to believe that I can do anything I want, and I believed it. So I went for it.
Nice. When was that?
It's back in 2015. I was fairly naive when I first founded it. I thought, oh, this will be easy. People do it all the time. So I was really prepared for a sprint, and it's been a marathon.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a great way of looking at it. So this is your 10-year anniversary then this year.
Yes, it is.
Woo! Nice. That's exciting. How are you going to celebrate?
I haven't thought of it until you mentioned it. So thank you for that. I think sometimes we get caught up in the day to day and we forget to celebrate the little successes or big successes. You know, my accountant always points out, like, even just being alive and having survived for 10 years as a company is a big accomplishment.
It really is. It really is. How many people are on your team now?
We're small but mighty, so we're 11 people, but we get a lot done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you have developers, sales, finance. How do you keep on top of what everyone is doing in their functional area?
I've been really lucky to attract people that are very self-managing, so I don't have to do a lot to manage them. But I have learned over the years that not everyone likes to be managed the same. So that's been a really interesting evolution. When I first came into leadership, I just managed everyone the way I would like to be managed, and not everyone responds to that. So I've had to adjust.
Okay. Yeah. Can you give an example of things that you've had to do to adjust?
Yeah, I think I've started asking people more how they like to be led. So there was a book I read when I was trying to learn to be a better person in my romantic relationships called The Love Languages. And
Yeah.
I've kind of figured out that everyone also has a performance love language. So some people like to be given words of affirmation, so calling them out in a scrum for a great job done. Some people like to be given a performance-based bonus and respond well to having metrics. And a lot of people actually just really like to belong to a team. So one of the really great things we've done is every Friday we pick someone and everyone says all the things that they appreciate about that person. And it really gives people a sense of belonging and understanding that people on the team truly care about them as a person, not just for what they bring to the company in terms of their performance.
Wow. That must really give them the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, it's been really well received, and I think it's made people a lot more loyal too because they're loyal to each other, and even if they're not feeling like doing a task, they don't want to let each other down.
That's an awesome ninja tip there for leaders out there who do have um, maybe a diverse team and especially a remote team, right? To really bring people together.
Yeah, and then our marketing resource even put together these words that we gave out at our team party that had some of the words that were common themes people came up with when they said what they appreciated about each other. So they've all got something on their desk that reminds them about what their team thinks of them.
Oh, cool. Cool. So that was a gift that you gave to all of the staff?
Yeah,
Yeah, what a creative and personalized gift.
all the credit goes to my marketing resource, Tatiana. She's been amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, that's good. How would people describe your leadership style, Tracy?
Definitely unconventional. So I have no formal leadership training. So I've been figuring out as I go along.
Hmm.
But like anything in life, you learn and you get better. So, originally, basically, I wrote a list of all the things that I'd experienced from leaders I'd worked under, negative and positive. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do these things and I'm going to do these things.
Hmm.
But then as I got to know my team better, through conversations, we have happiness check ins quarterly where I ask them, how are you feeling? Do you feel connected to the team? Is there anything we could do better? And then incorporating that feedback into the way I lead. And that's really been helpful. So it's been really a bottoms up approach where my team has told me what they need.
I love it. It's interesting though, because sometimes when you ask people, what do you need from me as a leader? Maybe that's the wrong question, but sometimes you don't get a very good answer. Um, how do you ask them in a way that helps them give you more details in how you can manage them better or support them better?
I really just ask them like, hey, I know, you're struggling with this project. If someone comes in to help you, would that make you feel better? Or do you want to kind of go it alone? And just asking, I'm surprised how often people will give you really honest answers. One kind of funny example recently, we had an in-person meeting at a coffee shop, and one of my developers got busy doing something, and he missed the meeting. We called him. We're like, hey, Dennis, where are you? And he was like, oh, I need to be punished for this. And I was like, what? No, just come next time. He's like, no, like you need to punish me. I was like, all right, do 10 push-ups. So he did 10 push-ups, and it was just kind of a funny thing.
That's hilarious. I love it. That's a great punishment, by the way, because it helps their personal goals too, right? Maybe getting stronger and that's kind of a
Whatever.
funny one.
Started doing 10 push-ups too. So
That's great. How do you support your team members in reaching some of their dreams?
So we've just started doing development plans. We're a bit early, I think, in our HR processes, not very mature. But recently, I've brought on an operations manager, Jana. So I gave her, the high level goals that I had for the team, and then she's working with them individually to work towards their development goals. Be it, being more social on calls, which techs sometimes struggle with,
Hmm.
or accomplishing a certain milestone.
Nice, nice. And I know you've had staff maybe in the past who had some dreams that were unrelated to their job. Can you give an example of that where you supported them?
Yeah, we had one staff member who was in a rock band, and we were able to give her 3 months unpaid time off to go tour around Europe and live her dream of bringing her music to the world, but also having a secure job that's paying the bills.
That's amazing. I love that story. Now, if we were to back it up, I'd love the background on that. Like, how did that conversation start? Because I imagine she was probably a bit nervous even mentioning it to you or thinking about getting time off. How did that all kind of transpire?
She was actually pretty bold, so I think early on I'd mentioned I wanted things to be fairly flexible. I think that's something we offer as a company. So if people want unpaid time off, they're allowed to take as much as they want. So that was already a corporate policy. And then she brought up, this opportunity to tour, and then we talked about how to make it happen in terms of making sure the clients were taken care of, and that she was transitioned off projects, in time for her to go and do her tour.
Okay, very creative because I think a lot of employers would probably be resistant to that idea where, like, okay, you have a rock band, nice, that's awesome that you do that on the weekend, but how are we going to meet our clients' needs? And what if we have a knowledge gap? How are we going to fill that gap? So, how did you approach that?
It's easier just because she was in project-based work, so we could time her projects appropriately. Might not
Mhm.
be possible for all employers.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And did she come back and continue to work for you after the tour?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thinking of another aspect, every leader has some hard situations that they have to deal with. What's something that you've had to deal with that was a little tougher?
So we did have one team member who was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. So
Oh.
really difficult and emotional for the entire team.
Hmm. And so what happened? What happened with this employee?
So once she found out, her and her husband, both took leaves from work so they could do some traveling before the end and live their dreams. And then we continued to support her by sending videos telling her how much we loved her. And
Yeah. Do you want to say her name so we can remember her?
yeah, Chelsea Rose, who was the most amazing person.
Wow.
Very much.
Thank you for sharing that. I think one of the tough things about that, I mean, obviously you had a relationship with her. So you as a leader, how did you take care of yourself through that process?
Not very well. It was challenging. We brought in our benefits company was really good, so they brought in a counselor to help us walk through. But it's difficult because I couldn't put the company aside to take the time I needed to grieve.
Hmm. Yeah.
Luckily, I think the team helped me through it because they understood and we were all together in this.
Yeah. And then thinking of that, the team and that cohesiveness, how did you also support them?
Partly through the counselor, just checking in with them more often to see how they're feeling and how they're dealing with things. It was interesting. Like one of my techs said he felt bad because he wasn't emotionally expressive. He's like, I feel sad, but I don't show it, and I feel like people don't think I'm sad. And so, talking him through that it's okay. Everyone shows their grief differently, and we all know that we love Chelsea, and it's okay.
Mhm. What a profound loss for the team. And, when you're a small company, especially, every team member is part of the culture. And so to have one person leave is a huge change and impact on the culture. What is something that Chelsea left behind in her footprints?
She was really amazing. So she told us how she wanted us to go on, that she wants us to be happy. She didn't want us to be sad for her. And because she left that instruction, we had to honor it. And, yeah, something really beautiful about her.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's very moving. I think a lot of leaders wouldn't know how to handle that situation and wouldn't know what to do for everyone else because there's no playbook for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I really knew either. I just did the best I could.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you followed your heart. Yeah, that's huge. Okay. When you think of things you're proud of that you're doing, that your team is doing all together, what are some things that come to mind?
I really love how the team is creative and we come up with out of the box solutions.
Hmm.
And by creative, I mean even, if marketing is writing something, they'll bring it to the scrum and ask for feedback, and the text will help. Um, so obviously coming up with our caller verify product, which came out of a client asking, how do we secure the call center? And us being like, we can figure that out. But also just, their ability to look at things and solve problems. It's really jazzes me that there's really no problem we can't solve.
Yeah. And like you said, a small but mighty team. Yeah. Well, and you are very active in the tech community. So I know I see you on LinkedIn doing events and speaking events and workshops. What are some ways that people can learn more about security and securing their own information?
Yeah, definitely, reach out to us at callerverify.com. The Canadian Cybersecurity Network is putting out a lot of great resources right now.
Hmm.
Women in Communication and Technology has a lot of really great events where you can speak with other leaders that have diverse experience around technology and security.
Hmm. You've talked to me before about wanting to support women in technology and women in leadership. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing in that regard.
So I am on the board of Women in Communication and Technology, and it's been interesting because I think I first joined wanting to contribute, and I do, but I've gotten so much more back from it. Being around these other, strong female leaders, I've learned so much from their styles and the way they approach problems and communicate that it's almost like having a board of mentors.
Wow. Very cool. Have you ever hired anybody because of that connection?
I haven't been any crossfires yet. Most of them are fairly senior and a little out of my financial reach, but
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I know there's a student connection as well, right? With SATE. Is it SATE?
Yeah, with state.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have hired some young students earlier on.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome. Besides the Women in Communication and Technology, what other sources do you look to for advice or new ideas?
Platform Calgary has been amazing. So I have an advisor through there, and just the connections that come through Platform Calgary in terms of people who have started businesses previously or have failed at businesses and can share those learnings. It's just been an amazing resource.
Okay. Do you have any books or podcasts that you follow?
Yeah, there's a book by a woman named Shelley. She was the first Black female CEO of a major Fortune 500 company. And in her book, she talks a lot about just, making goals. And every time she didn't achieve something, she would go back to her boss and say, okay, what do I need to do next time? And then she would come back and be like, okay, I've done that now. Now I want to get to the next level. And just her logical approach really spoke to me.
Do you know the title of the book?
I'm gonna have to go look it up. I do know she has Ask Me Anything sessions
Oh, cool.
regularly on YouTube, but sorry, I have a terrible memory.
Yeah, that's okay. We can look it up. Who is a leader who's inspired you in your journey?
Christy Vellante of TELUS, so she's on the board of communications, Women in Communications and Technology, and just watching how she manages to balance her very busy life plus give back, it's really inspired me.
That's amazing. I love meeting people like that. So, thinking back, Tracy, to when you first became a leader of other people, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't prepare for a sprint, prepare for a marathon because it's going to be one, and
Hmm.
you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall down. But what really matters is that you get back up and you try again.
Hmm.
And no mistake, no bad decision is so bad that you can't fix it, adjust, or change. So don't beat yourself up too much.
Yeah, sounds like there's some experiences that informed that advice. Anything you care to share?
Very many. You talked about working from home, so it's kind of interesting watching everyone get forced to go back to the office. We found working from home really works. All our people are super productive, and it was initially an economic decision, but everyone loves it. The people who have kids can, stop off at 3:45 to pick up their kids and then come back and work for an hour.
Hmm.
It's just worked really well.
Yeah, I know I do that. I have to stop my day and then I continue. And so I have this weird, I call it split shift. and it really works for a lot of people. So, what do you think about this trend? For a lot of technology companies, actually, are saying that they want their employees back at work full time, like 100% of the time. Where do you think that's coming from?
I think it's coming from some people not doing their job and some managers not knowing how to address that in a productive way. So I think it's a symptom. I don't think it's the actual problem.
That's a great perspective. How do you address that or manage that with your team?
So really, as long as everything's getting done and accomplished, I'm very hands off as a leader. So only when things aren't getting done, then I'll start to investigate why and
Hmm.
to make adjustments.
Okay. Okay. Have you had that happen where you've had an employee that you could tell wasn't performing and you had to address that?
Yeah. So do the standard, work plan improvement of here's what needs to change and here's how you're going to change it, and we can support you in it, but it needs to change.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a tough conversation to have sometimes, right?
Yeah, there certainly are some personality types that will take advantage of working from home. So you do have to, set goals and set expectations of what needs to be accomplished.
Hmm. How do you create that feeling of cohesiveness with a team that's completely remote?
So we've started having smaller team meetings in person. So once a month, the admin team goes for coffee and the tech team goes for coffee. And then at least once a quarter, we try and get together for a team dinner or event.
Okay, great. That's a great
We
idea.
also have fun Fridays. So Friday Scrum, we don't talk about work. Someone picks a topic. So, last month, Brianna picked bring a picture of yourself as a child, and it brought out all these really cool memories that people shared, and it's really bonding for the team.
Wow, I love that because it gives you a chance to get to know people really on a human level, totally unrelated to work.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
people really need to belong to something. So just having a job and a task isn't enough.
Definitely. How do you share a sense of vision or goals or like a purpose with your team to keep them aligned to what you're trying to accomplish?
So once a year, like at the beginning of the year, we set our yearly objectives, and I haven't been really good at checking in on them quarterly. That is the plan for this year, that we're gonna meet every quarter and be like, oh, how did we track and what do we need to course correct. I first founded TechJutsu. I think I had a very idealistic view. I wanted to pay everyone really well. I still do, but I paid everyone so well that the company couldn't support it. So I had to, adjust, as we brought new people on and let them sort of work up to, the highest pay scale.
Hmm. Well, it's good to know you have pay scales because a lot of smaller companies don't have any sort of consistency or strategy that goes into how they decide how to pay people. So that's good structure on your part.
Yeah, it always depends how the business is doing too. Sometimes someone's, doing their best and performing, but if the business isn't, you can't afford to give them a raise.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the reality, right? What is on the horizon for you in 2025?
We're in scale up mode, so it's pretty exciting, but a lot of change very quickly. So that's challenging, but also really exciting to just see if we can take this to the moon.
Amazing. Amazing. What does taking it to the moon look like for you? Do you have a definition of what you want to see happen by end of year or maybe three years out?
End of year, we're planning to have 10 million ARR, but that's really rapid growth. So we're going to have to improve our processes so that we can scale this quickly. And
Hmm.
everyone's going to have to pitch in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited for you. I know that there's a lot of opportunity and you're definitely in the right place geographically um, and strategically. So I know that you're going to enjoy all of the successes that you're planning for.
Yeah, had a lot of great successes too. I really love watching you on LinkedIn and seeing your podcast start up, and it makes me really happy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm always trying to find great guests. So looking forward to hearing who you would recommend. Well, I appreciate everything you shared, Tracy, and looking forward to celebrating success with you in later in 2025.
I would love that. And congrats on your podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you. We're glad you joined us for Suits and Sneakers. If you want to be an expert guest, look for the link in the show notes. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified of future episodes.